Shout out to the fam, man. All the Saints quietly building something special. Today, that's what we're going to talk about on the latest roster moves. The fact that the Saints signed a 6'6" defensive end, the current wide receiver room, whether the Saints had the NFL's most impactful rookie class of this past season. I'm Big Q in the Sports Coma, and that's what we're going to talk about in this episode of the show. So much love to you guys. Appreciate y'all for chiming in on this episode of the Coma. Man, listen, man, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button as we get going directly into the broadcast on this Thursday. Big ups to the fam so you can see out the gate the fact that the Saints did, shout out to Saints Wire, sign a 6'6" defensive end from after the Jags and the Bengals had him in as a player. And this is actually a player from Shreveport that the Saints are bringing in to help improve upon the defensive line. So the Saints announced an intriguing depth move on Wednesday. The teams are out of the playoffs, have the opportunity to sign guys who did not finish the 2025 season on active roster to reserve future deals for the upcoming year. So on Wednesday, the Saints announced that they have signed former Jacksonville Jaguar and Cincinnati pass rusher Miles Cole to a futures reserve deal. Mickey Loomis, I know. He said that the club has signed defensive end Miles Cole to a reserve futures contract, the Saints announced. Now, Miles is 6'6", or almost 280 pounds, and was selected in the seventh round of that draft, and the 236 overall out of the 2024 draft by the Jags out of Texas Tech. Now, as a rookie, appeared in 8 games, added 8 stops, 4 solo, and a tackle for a loss this past year. He spent 7 weeks on the practice squad with the Bengals after spending training camp with the Jaguars. So the Saints made a move with some upsides here. In 6 college season at Louisiana Monroe back in 2018 and 21, in Texas Tech 22 to 23, he played 58 total games, recorded 86 tackles. 43 of them was solo, 5 sacks, 12 stops for a loss, and 1 block kicked. His most productive season came with the Red Raiders as a super senior in 2023, starting all 12 appearances at the edge rush position, had 32 stops, 3.5 sacks, and 6 tackles for a loss. This is the type of move the Saints should be making at this time of the year. It's an all upside and pretty much no downside. Reserve future deals are cheap and give the team a chance to get a head start and looking at some depth options for the following season. So Cole fits the description. He played in 8 games in 24 with the Jags, and in 25, he spent time with Jacksonville before the campaign on the Bengals practice squad. In his final year at college, he had 3.5 sacks, 6.5 tackles for a loss in his 6'6", and at least gives the Saints another pass rush option to take a look at, which is important with both Cam and Demario Davis facing free agency. Now, this is it's like I said, this is one of the moves where it's an enticing move. Remember, the Saints also did a wonderful job in picking up the big wide receiver Moose, who had the Canadian leanings. The kid, he's a very big wide receiver. So you got a 6'5" wide receiver that you picked up with a reserve rights deal, and now you get a 6'6" defensive end. Now, what's interesting about the Saints in this situation is the fact that they're being active and moving and finding talent where they could, even though the season is over with. You evaluate and you keep moving ahead to see if you can find. Now, this is an athletic 6'6" guy. A lot of our defensive edge rushers are 6'5", like Carl Granderson, Chase Young, 6'5", Cam is 6'4", and you have other guys in there that are at least 6'3" or 6'4". So having a 6'6" defensive end to move around in Coach Staley's system could be a positive. So we have to develop him. He has some experience. He played in a few games here or there since he's been in the NFL, but it's pretty much a raw defensive end with talent. I was looking at some film on him. A big guy that can move. He's not super jumping off the tape, but you can imagine what could be done if he can kind of crack the reserve lineup for in training camp, so Coach Staley can utilize his speed and his size. A 6'6" defensive end, I think, is the tallest guy we have right now on the team. So he has to crack the reserve lineup and get in there and have an impact there. And it's going to be some competition there because I do think the Saints are going to more than likely re-sign guys. I could see them re-signing a few guys. I talked about that on the previous stream that should come back, that earned the right to have an opportunity to come back to the team. Jonah Williams was another guy who really played beyond his money. We've seen Chris Rump II have a solid year. A Bullard, people like that earned a contract that should come back to the team. You see what I'm saying? Those veterans were really instrumental in the reserve role for the Saints defense and should be considered for a contract extension or, a re-sign moreover. But shout out to this brother and appreciate him for being on the team. He'll see what he can do going forward. But it's pretty cool to see that. Now let's move on, fam. We got another one right here for the fam. Y'all hit that like button as we get going. Examining the Saints wide receiver room, including the forgotten trade pickup. So shout out to Yard Barker with this one here. And this is pretty much, an article in which the Saints, we're going to go into looking at the wide receiver room. Fam, I've said it during the year, and let me see if you guys would agree with me, that the defense, to me, was a little bit ahead in terms of development than our offense, right? Like, for instance, we seen Coach Staley. He was very proactive in asking for personnel, being granted personnel, getting players, right? Getting players, getting them in and getting them acclimated to what he want them to do, right? We've seen that. We've seen him bring in Chris Rump II. We've seen him bring in Bullard. We've seen him bring in Jonah Williams. You see what I'm saying? We also seen them add talent through the draft. Vernon Brockton, who got hurt, but he'll be back. Danny Stutzman, Jonas Sanker. We've seen all that. And, of course, a lot of them hit. We did see Isaac Yiadom get signed to a 3-year deal after we couldn't get the guy we wanted. But we got Quincy Riley, who we knew eventually would supplant him in that lineup in the secondary, in which he did. So that happened. We also got Julian Blackman, who should be signed to a cheap deal to come back again after he started off real good. Knockdown, drag out, safety. Love to have him backing up Sanker, right? Unless we go in a different direction with the draft picks. But outside of that, man, we've seen those type of players perform admirably. So the defense had a lot of resources. And then later on, when the season started to start, in between the start of the week one at the end of the preseason, and between the trade deadline, that's when you seen the offense got going. Kellen Moore started signing people. We started seeing that later on. Then you started seeing him trade for Divine Belly. Then you start seeing him trade for Jalen Polk. Then you start seeing him trade for Asim Richards. We seen him pick Xavier Truss up off the waiver wire. You see what I'm saying? Then you started seeing the Saints started making moves, them trading Rashid Shaheed, getting him on out. You know what I'm saying? Ultimately getting rid of Cooks, paying him off to get out of here if we were well out of the hunt for the playoffs. That sort of thing. Right? We've seen that occur. But the bottom line is, when you as a team, you have to be able to move a little faster. And we've seen them make some moves, but the whole time around, most people they were ahead of the game. Like, you have some of your internet service providers can watch the football game and my feed will be ahead of your feed. You see? Some people are quicker to the punch than others. And if you look at what the Saints was doing, to be honest with you, they just wasn't close to that punch. It got better later on. But if some of these moves were made early, like if we would have got rid of Brandon Cooks a lot early, like before the season started, like getting rid of him at preseason, if you get Divine Belly and putting him in place and seeing what Divine Belly can do right away because you surrendered the capital for him, then that would have maybe changed some things. I know the chemistry, could have done some stuff like that and all this sort of thing. Things could have kind of been a little faster. So you can't change the game. All you can do is learn from it. So understanding what the team is, what we're trying to do and all this kind of stuff, all that changed over time because the quarterback, the offense got better. The offensive play caller got better. He found out which plays not to call because he was talking to his players. He's talking to his quarterback, and plays that they like to run. They started running the stuff they like to run that works really well with the offense. And you start seeing them adopt a lot of this stuff, and you started seeing the offense galvanize and running. You see, it ain't so much just dialing up an order and then they run it or fulfill it like automatons. Those guys have to have an emotional attachment to some of this stuff that they're doing, because some of the better plays they feel comfortable with, you want to run that stuff more than you do the stuff they don't. I mean, that's just common sense. You won't find that information out unless you talk to the actual players that are running the plays that you are calling. And you started seeing that happen toward the back of the year. Even Cam Jordan spoke about that when he did the podcast, speaking to Tyler Shuck on it. He kind of talked about that and broke that part of the game down. You see? So that's always been a key to success. When you as the head coach can go to the quarterback, let's say in this scenario, it's the quarterback, your quarterback that you chose in the draft, and get insight from him, then you give him, and then y'all work together on how to wrap this offense around your signal caller so he feels comfortable and then goes out there and executes flawlessly. So that started to happen on the back end, and you would want that to trend forward into the future, into 2026 season. So that a large part of what the wide receiver rooms, all this stuff was going on. You take a look at the Saints wide receiver room, which is in my account, probably the largest room that the Saints have right now. You see, just to be honest with you, that the wide receiver room is off the chain. It's littered and loaded with talent, and I don't think they're done adding to it. So let's look into this article right here so I can show you. Examine the Saints wide receiver room, including forgotten trade options. This is crazy work, right? It's crazy work. Examine the Saints wide receiver, including forgotten trade pickup. If you're a Saints supporter, and it's easy to have a bit of pep in your step, right? Right now, it comes to the franchise. Tyler Shuck looked like the real deal once he took over the team's starting quarterback position. Kellen Moore showed significant progress from the beginning of his first season as a team head coach. You've seen Kellen not as, smiley and goofy as he was when he first came in. A lot more serene and seriouser. You see what I'm saying? Early on, he was standing there answering all the questions and being more in depth with the media. As you got closer to the back of the year, his answers were more sharper and shorter than what you've seen before. So you can see, if you pay attention to him, a progression from, rookie, clumsy coach into a more serious or serener type of personality at the head coach position. You see? You see that? Now put one in the chat if you've seen that, because I know I did. Now, Kellen Moore showed significant progress from the beginning of the season as the team's head coach to the end. The 2025 NFL draft class looks like a hit in general, and some guys took a step forward in 2025, like Chris Olave and Chase Young. The high-paid veterans, these guys showed up and showed out. Despite finishing 6-11, there are a lot of teams out there that would like to be in that position the Saints are in right now. Look at a team like the Dolphins, for example, that went 7-10. Really, they wasn't supposed to go 7-10. We dropped a touchdown pass that would have won the game at the end, and they should have been 6-11, and we should have been 7-10. For real, they dropped that touchdown. But all out of whack. They fired their head coach, and the quarterback position is up in the air with Tua. Tua needs, it's time for him to go. That was a failed experiment. If Coach McDaniels is not there, they need to find him another one. They will. They're going to find another quarterback. Saints have the momentum and need to use this offseason to add more pieces. Specifically to the offense, the Saints arguably need another high-end receiver and potentially another running back to pair with Alvin Kamara and Devin Neal. Now, a lot of people saying a high-end wide receiver. You got Chris Olave, they're going to pay. His extension is not going to be cheap. It's going to be probably anywhere between, he's going to be making $15 million on that final deal that they picked up on for in his final contract year. He'll make it 15. So whatever he's restructuring or trying to get him to extend rather, it's going to be anywhere between, it's going to be north of 18 million. I estimate anywhere between 19, maybe 18 and a half to $20 million a year. It's going to be somewhere up there. It's going to be between, about 19 to 20 million a year. for his services. And it's going to be a 4 or 5 year deal. That makes him a 10-year player for the Saints. That's what it's going to be. So the Saints right now, they've been talking about, they've been negotiating, according to reports, for the last 2 months. And the last time we seen Chris Olave, he was like, I've done all I can do. It's in their hands now. That's his stance. He said that. And I was like, oh, wow. The way he said it, I was like, okay. Because in his way, he wasn't frustrated, but you could see the sharpness in the term and his energy when he said it. I was like, it's in their hands. I already told y'all what I want. I had my best year. Y'all need to pay up. But the Saints, and think about it like this, the Saints aren't in a rush because they still have Chris Olave under this final year at $15 million. So then I guess you could say they're not in a rush right away to sign him now. Like if you would say, we could pivot to go to we can go to pivot to our safety right here and see if we can get that done with him, Alontae Taylor. So if we can get that done, let's do that because he's unrestricted. So we will see. But the Saints are not going to do that with Alontae Taylor. What they're going to do is allow the market to dictate his value. And if it's somewhere where they want it to be, they'll resign him. But the agent is going to try to get Alontae Taylor as much money as he possibly can. And I have concerns that somebody's going to price him out of our reach. That's what I think. That's what I'm thinking. But the good news on that's the bad news. The good news is the fact that eventually you might see a situation where you'll get a guy at number 8 to fill that slot, whether it's it's Delaney, Mansour from LSU, or whether it's Caleb Downs. You'll get a defensive back at number 8 to replace him if that is indeed the case. Or you can get one in the second round of the draft because there are quite a few of them there. But if you want a quality one that'll be with you for the next 10 years, that'll be a top-notch player, those two players in the secondary, if that is the where you want to go with it, would be something interesting just to add on top of that. All right. So he mentioned the Saints arguably need a high-end receiver, potential another running back to pair with Alvin Kamara and Devin Neal. You still have Miller. You still have him here. But all of these running backs, whether they're Kamara, Miller, or Neal, they all had injuries last year. So you're going to have to stock up your depth chart anywhere as far as that's concerned. Alvin Kamara has 1 year left on his deal. So does Miller. So in the end, you don't have long-term prosperity there. And the thing that's interesting to some of the people who say, well, Q, we need to go somewhere else with that number 8 pick if that running back is there. And I'm telling you that next year you won't be picking in the top 10. You won't get the opportunity to get a top 8 back or a top 5. Really, this is the best running back in the draft, hands down. And they have some pretty good running backs in college, but it's a drop between him and the next running back. That's how good this guy is. And he can have just as well of an impact with your team as you've seen Ashton Genty have with the Raiders. He can have that type of impact because he's that type of running back. His skill set's off the chain. He can catch the ball out the backfield. He can block for you if you need him to block. He's smart. He runs inside and outside, has speed and a different level. And he's a solid back. He's a quality back that you want to give Tyler Shuck to take pressure off of him in these situations. So if you have a quality running back and a quarterback that scrambles, the Saints running attack in terms of the statistics is about to go up in the air. Plus, you take him now, and he can act, and Alvin Kamara can act as a mentor for him in his first year before Alvin is celebrated and off into the sunset as a Saint. You get me? So on the receiver front, they're building blocks in place. Olave is still here. He's the star. Devon Valley was awesome in the time that we seen him in the slot, catching the ball, making them difficult grabs, and just love his game. It's a big physical wide receiver who made some difficult, really tough catches, He was awesome in the time we seen, and adding a veteran playmaker would be huge. They talking about like Debo Samuel, that's going to cost you a few bucks, or Marquise Brown type in free agency. Not a tier one player, but they're thinking more of a tier two player. I seen one of the television people said Jawan Jennings was a guy. He got some injury history though with him, but outside of that, who knows? Now, the Saints are one wide receiver away. If the Saints can enter the 2026 season with a receiver room led by Olave, Veli, and Debo Samuel, that would be a high powered. Yeah, and Debo Samuel, didn't he get hurt? The franchise also has another guy with upside already in Jalen Polk. That's the difference maker right there. Not difference maker, but to me, Jalen Polk is the guy that you need to pay attention to, because the reality is the Saints gave up a 6th-round pick to get a 2nd-round talent in Jalen Polk. And that move right there that the Saints made during the season was a future move. That was like, man, this guy will be somebody we can use in the future to help us to go to the next level. And that is what that was. And I'm thinking when people are talking about getting a veteran in free agency, they're overlooking Jalen Polk. All you have to do is go look up Jalen Polk's his film. He has some limited film in New England, but if you go look up his college film, he got a ton of college film with him making all kind of spectacular catches, touchdown catches, running good route. Now he don't have a 4.4 in the 40, all this kind of stuff, but the guy looks faster on film than he actually is. He runs quality routes, he blocks, and I love his attitude from the wide receiver position. We do not have a wide receiver that has the type of temperament that Jalen Polk has. We know Chris Olave, we see what he does. He's super cool, but I'm talking about the tough man stuff that Jalen Polk, how when he catches the ball and, this type of stuff. We hadn't had a receiver with that temperament since Mike Thomas, had that type of temperament. But you can see they didn't, that the Saints acquired him from New England. He didn't play in a game for the franchise last year. He is rehabbing. He's with the team, though. Shuck posted a photo of the two fishing earlier. So you can see right here that Jalen Polk right here and the Shuckinator out there catching fish. The Shuckinator is is handling business on the football field and on the waterways. So there you go. So Polk is just 23 years old, man. We right in line. So it's good to see these guys because that's his quarterback. Them fishing together and their reports, rumors, or whatever you want to say, reports that have been put out there about these gentlemen ultimately are going to be already, and some reports are saying that they're working, doing off-season work. Like, what was it? Last year, we seen a couple of people go out to California, or they'll pick a place, they'll follow, or they invite them to come out, and then they'll just run routes and they'll practice and work on chemistry and and this sort of thing. That only helps you going into the season, because it's giving the wide receiver and the quarterback an opportunity to get used to their tendencies. So that's always a positive benefit when you're doing it outside of the field. So Polk's 23, was a 2nd-round pick by the Patriots in 2024, and he had only 12 catches for 87 yards as a rookie, along with the touchdowns in 15 games. Now, in the final season in college, he had over 1,100 yards. He had 69 catches to go along with 9 touchdowns. He averaged 17 yards per catch. If the Saints could add another immediate receiver like Samuel, they can all be set. Have Olave run all over the place, Samuel, or another addition as a safety blanket, Valley in the middle of the field, and Polk outside. This sounds like an offense with upside. So that's 4 guys. I can see what he's trying to do. I'm looking at 3. He's saying 4 of that wide receiver to the mix. But the Saints wide receiver room is slam pack, jam pack. They got a bunch of guys there, man. Guys that are still here. Now they could very well bring in a veteran. I'm not anticipating them bringing in a veteran that is that's going to cost a lot of money. But we'll see how they act. But if you want to make the jump to win 2 to 3 more games, really, like you can go back over the games, the last 9 games that Tyler Shuck played, and there were times where games was left, like the Atlanta game and the Miami game should have been a win, right? We were hurting. We were without players in the final game of the season. There was a drop touchdown pass by Chris Olave in the Miami game. That's 2 wins right there. But when you add talent and you power up your depth and you add another wide receiver, a veteran wide receiver to steady the run, things kind of change for you because it's really, isn't it all about the depth? Now you can have talent on top, but when it comes down to it, the bottom line is you got to have, you got to have depth to kind of fortify this thing. Let me share this with you, fam. This is from our lads. This shows right here the Saints depth chart as it stands. And shout out to FanDuel. Let me just say this, man. FanDuel, the Sports Coma is brought to you by FanDuel for all your latest needs on betting needs, baby. You go on FanDuel, just dial up the app, but go there. You can see the lines for and make bets for the NFL. You can see the next round of the playoffs is up. The NBA, college basketball, football with the national championship is coming up next Monday. So all your betting needs, go to FanDuel, baby. The official sponsor of the Coma. Just want to throw that at you. And once again, shout out to them. All right, let's keep it going. Going back to this thing. Hit the like button for me, fam. These are some of the wide receivers that we currently have listed right here. Mason Tipton. Okay, we know Chris Olave, Divine Valley. We know about Jalen Polk, but there's also Mason Tipton, Kevin Austin Jr., Bub Means. Remember him? He got hurt. He'll be back. Pettis is a free agent. We still have Ronnie Bell, Samari Toure, and Trey Palmer. Remember, Trey Palmer was a guy the Saints picked up. He was also hurt. He's a guy, and these are 2 guys that the Saints picked up that really couldn't help us this year. Having a guy like Palmer and then picking up Jalen Polk was 2 different things. Now, Palmer is a veteran wide receiver, been in the game. He's about 20, what is it, 20, how old is Palmer? Trey Palmer. He's been in the league for 3 years. He's 24 years of age. He got a year remaining on his contract. So he's in. Trey Palmer's a speed demon. This guy can catch, and he'll burn. He'll burn the secondary deep. He's on the team, right? The Saints also picked up the big wide receiver whose name escapes me right now. Hold on, let me see if I can pull the brother name up right now. Let me see. Let me see if I can pull his name up too. The big wide receiver. We just signed him, man. I forgot his name from the thing. Y'all could put it in the chat, but hold on here. Let me see if I can pull it up here, and y'all can see for yourself. But yeah, we and like I said, a lot of these guys coming off of injury, a lot of them you're looking at and you're saying, well, how could they help us? Can they help us? And some people want to have more of an established product on the field, meaning a wide receiver veteran that can be relied upon if injuries start hitting your room. Because, at some point, we're going to see that. We're going to see injuries hit the room, and the Saints want to be prepared for that sort of thing. So having Jalen Polk and Trey Palmer and all these other guys are a positive. So I'm not mad at them looking at a wide receiver and attempt to say, okay, we need to see about getting us a wide receiver here to kind of work out. Damian Alford. Yeah, Damian Alford, I had to look him up. Yeah, here he is right here. 6'6", 230-pound wide receiver from the University of Utah, I'm sorry. Moose Alford, that's his name, and this is a big wide receiver who the Saints picked up last week, and he also has good speed too. He's not slow. Somebody said he was slow. No, I looked at his 40 tape. He's actually has speed for his size. That's what make it really interesting that the Saints added another big wide receiver to go on over Valley. Like, we had a bunch of small guys, and then there was Divine Valley, who's a big wide receiver. Then you end up getting Damian Alford. Now, we don't know if he'll crack it or not, but we'll be looking at him this offseason because all these other wide receivers are, a lot shorter. He'll be, I think, the biggest wide receiver we have. So he's a 50-50 catch guy. It looks like a big tight end playing the position. Maybe there's some application there. I don't know. But but if you have an imagination, anything possible. But what I'm showing y'all is I'm attempting to show y'all all of the talent that we have in the wide receiver room and why the wide receiver room is in good shape. Now, don't like I said, don't get it twisted. They can ultimately bring another veteran wide receiver into the fold to help us because, hey man, I'm not against that. Let me show y'all a list of free agent wide receivers too, so you don't even have to guess about this. This is how easy it is at the Sports Coma. Look at this list right here. This is provided by Over the Cap. These are the 2026 free agents at the wide receiver position. You see the writer astutely mentioned Deebo Samuel. There's this old Mike Evans. Now, some of these guys are going to command a lot of money, right? So I don't know if you're aiming at tier one type of guys like, like some of these other wide receivers, like George Pickens, which Dallas is going to look to bring him back because their offense was actually respectable. They get the defense together. They'll start challenging again in the NFC. They get that defense together. They could see some stuff happening. They did make some trades there, but if they can get the right coordinator, man, I think Dallas will be dangerous in the NFC once again. But anyway, Deebo Samuel sits on top. Mike Evans, Christian Kirk, Diami Brown, Tutu Atwell. They see Marquise Brown. Jawan Jennings is listed there. Adam Thielen retired, so he's not going to be in the mix. And then you see the rest of these guys are free agents as well. And remember, there was talk about Keenan. Now all that is gone, but you would think that perhaps one of these wide receivers in the free agent chain could end up being a guy that the Saints ultimately bring in to be looked at. And there's some interesting names that I think will work here for the Saints. If you was to add a veteran wide receiver to the mix, the guy would have to be a guy I would say that is maybe 6'3", physical wide receiver with a degree of speed that can also run well. I thought at time Marquise Valdez-Scantling, MVS would be that guy. I thought they would have him, but they did not re-sign him. Seattle did. I don't think the Saints will participate in getting these other men. Like, I don't think the Saints will end up like, okay, we're going to get these top level wide receivers. I think they'll go in a different direction and maybe get a tier two guy, maybe, like Jawan Jennings is not a bad call depending on how much money he's asking for, but he has an injury history that I'm kind of concerned about. Other guys, who else the other guy was thinking about as well? Man, Kendrick Bourne, but he also, a couple of these 49er former wide receivers have injury concerns you want to watch out for, but who would fit a system like that? So it'd be a couple of guys that you would want to bring in for a look and see what they can do for you, to kind of help out in the top four and steady the running back room. And you got them at all different costs, man. I think Romeo Dubes is an interesting player too. He was a productive guy. He had some injury concerns as well. He's a productive guy that can ultimately that can help you. But like I said, it depends on who you're looking at, and we'll see that as we go into the free agent rank. And I don't think the Saints will be participants in getting the tier one guys. Maybe the tier two guys you could see them picking up and bringing here to try to steady the run, perhaps. Or perhaps the Saints feel good about what they got going on, period, because they got like 11 people. I want to say 11 or 12 wide receivers currently on the team. So they know where what the hell is going on in terms of adding talent to Tyler Shuck. They know that much. I'm going to be honest with you on that. They really know. All right, let's keep it pushing, man. Let's jump to this next article right here. Shout out to NOLA.com. With this one here is called Ranking. The Saints had the NFL's most impactful rookie class, and here's why. Shout out to the writer, Luke Johnson, and he's breaking the game down. New Orleans Saints may have had the most impactful rookie class in the NFL. At least a set of postseason rankings agreed that was the case. Compiling his annual list of rookie classes that produced the most for the teams from ESPN, Aaron Schatz ranked the 2025 Saints crop at the top of the pile. How about that? All right, Schatz is an analytical pioneer who created the DVOA metric for Football Outsiders and now works for FTM Network. He's based his year's rookie rankings on several data points, starting with the Sports Info Solutions. total point system, which attempts to assign value to individual players. He then adjusted his rankings based upon positional importance, ESPN tracking data, and his own DVOA formula. What did he come up with? These rankings are meant to organize the draft classes by the impact the rookies had on the team's year, the year the team had, rather than trying to assess future value or potential, which hurt teams such as the Jags, who only had 7 games out of the number 2 pick, Travis Hunter. New Orleans ranked number 1 on Shat's list because of its contributions it received from quarterback Tyler Shuck, left tackle Kelvin Banks Jr., its top 2 picks, but also because of several other members of the class contributed in a positive manner. Some other sources backing up Shat's rankings, the PFR, which is the Pro Football Reference, keeps a proprietary statistic on approximate value, or an AV that attempts to qualify a player's value to a team in a given season, right? This year, Pro Football Reference found 35 players from the 2025 draft class to post an AV of 6 or better. The Saints accounted for 3 of them. Tyler Shuck had 7. Banks had 6. Jonas had 7. The only other teams with 3 or more players to reach that benchmark were the Patriots, who had 4, and the Bears had 3. Each of the 9 players the Saints selected in the 2025 draft appeared in at least one game this season. Though 7-rounders Maliki Matavo and Fadil Diggs spent most of the season on the practice squad, and 3rd-rounder Vernon Brockton missed the final 15 games of the season with a hip injury. Shuck was the gem of the Saints class. For the 2025 season, at least having recently been named a finalist for the NFC's Offensive Rookie of the Year, despite starting 9 games. That's an accomplishment. Let's not forget that part of it. And that would be really that would really be something just on another level, right? If Tyler Shuck wins the Rookie of the Year honor, just playing 9 games will be crazy work, because Jackson Dart played more games. Cam Ward played more games. Ashton Genty, but you see what I'm saying? Some of these other finalists played more games, but for him to get in there and win it off of 9 games, that's pretty special. Come on. Let's just keep it all the way funky. He didn't have a whole year like Cam Ward did. You see what I'm saying? Or the majority of the year. Jackson Dart got in there a lot sooner than he did. So for him to do that, man, that'll be another accolade that stand on top of all that other stuff, right? He finished second, close second to Giants Jackson Dart, 91.7 in rating. He says 91.7 in QB rate, 91.3, and led all rookie passers in passing yards per game to 16.7, and completion percentage. Man had almost 67% completing the ball as a rookie. That's insane. Most important, Shuck also won 5 of his 9 starts, the only rookie to lead his team to a winning record in stats. It is incredibly difficult and very rare for a rookie quarterback to have a positive win-loss record at the end of the season, because most rookies, that doesn't happen. We talking about Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was like 1-8, whatever. Well, he lost damn near all of them games. He won like 1 or 2 games in his rookie year. So it's something that rarely happens. And Shuck and Banks, the Saints found 2 foundational players at the premium positions to accelerate their rebuild with the top 2 picks, but they also hit on some defensive starters in day 2 and 3 as well. Now, they're right. You get the quarterback of the future, the franchise quarterback, and Tyler Shuckinator, Shuck, and then you have Kelvin Banks Jr., his blindside tackle. So that works for what you got going on, and for the Saints to make the leap. They just have to focus on the interior of the offensive line and depth, improving upon the skill positions, 1 player for the wide receiver room, maybe another one for the tight end backup room, and, some help at the running back position, maybe getting a fullback or picking up a tight end or a guy that can be a fullback and tight end for you, kind of a hybrid type player. This could be good, but the jump is not, it's not going to be a real bad jump or a lot the Saints could do or need to do to further along. The They just need to add a few pieces there, keep it going. They have to really improve the special teams. We found the kicker. You got to find your punter. You got to improve on the secondary side of it. I don't hear anything happen with Phil Galliano about to lose his job. Maybe they'll give him an opportunity to clean it up in year 2. But yeah, definitely that has to change. So, Sanker played solid football throughout the season after taking over as the starting safety in week 2 following Julian Blackman's season-ending shoulder injury. The third rounder was one of 5 rookies to record at least 80 tackles and 2 interceptions this season. So it was just, Jonas Sanker put on a role. Quincy Riley took over as the starting cornerback after the first quarter of the season, impressed the Saints with his playmaking ability, finishing 4th among NFL rookies in pass defense with 10. He was doing some wonderful stuff. Linebacker Danny Stutzman finished 8th among rookie linebackers and tackles with 53. As a co-starter, Demario Davis and Pete Werner. Pete Werner had like 70-plus tackles. And then they were craftily moving Danny Stutzman in there to pick up play. He had 53 tackles and played only 19% of the Saints' defensive snaps. So they utilized him in a good way. The Saints were of 3 NFC South teams to rank in Shat's top 6, with the Carolina Panthers and Atlanta Falcons checking in at number 5 and 6 spots respectfully, and the Buccaneers checked in at 16th. Carolina's Ted McMillan, T-Mac, and Tampa Bay's Emeka Egbuka, both drafted receivers, will at least draw consideration for the Rookie of the Year, and in McMillan's case, probably win it. Atlanta, meanwhile, found three impact defensive players in James Pierce, who had 10.5 sacks. I knew Pierce was going to be good out of the University of Tennessee. I was saying it. Xavier Watts, which I wanted Xavier Watts, them to draft him over Jonas Sanker. He had a rookie high 5 picks. I knew he would be the guy because he was that type of dude with Notre Dame. He was the leader on the back end of that defense. He was getting interceptions in college. It's what he does. And Jelani Walker also was popping for him. So the future is bright from the defense for them. But I'm happy with Jonas Sanker. So he also was so I'm not mad about the pick. But the Saints draft class, man, they got a lot of this. This was a fantastic draft class. And this is what the Saints are going to build on going forward. The bottom line. You're going to have to replicate what you did from 25 to 26 and continue to keep this thing twisting and turning. That's all you can do. All right. Anyway, let's keep it going, man, and keep it moving and grooving, baby, and keep it going. Let's keep on moving. All right. Anyway, let's talk about some extra NFL stuff before we hit this reaction stream. I got a little surprise thing I want to hit y'all with, a reaction to CBS's video on how to fix the Saints. But the information here is that the Giants I thought this was good news here for the family members, that John Harbaugh is going to be the New York Giants head coach. Now, they've cycled through coaches one after the other, all this kind of stuff. And John Harbaugh is a guy, can he bring success back to Giant land? And the future is bright for the New York Giants. They need a serious coach there. Get you a good offensive coordinator. Harbaugh is going to make sure everything runs perfectly. He'll stabilize the joint, bring respectability to the Big Apple again. And plus, there's a lot to work with for the Giants to have. Jackson Dart is improving. They got Cam Scatterbo. He coming off injury. He's a feature running back, and Malik Neighbors. And then, of course, they'll be able to pick up in the draft and improve. They got to keep on. There's several other players on this team, but for him to get that job, and the Giants refuse to let him go, and they finalized an agreement to make him the head coach of the Giants. I knew he wasn't going to last on the market. Harbaugh, 63, spent 18 years with the Baltimore, going 180 and 113 and winning the Super Bowl before he was fired last week after missing the playoffs. The Giants have gone 7-27 over the past 2 seasons and could benefit from a proven winning head coach. Harbaugh would succeed Brian DeBall, who was fired in November. Mike Kafka served as an interim coach for the Giants' final 7 games. Harbaugh interviewed with the Falcons on Monday and had tentative plans to meet with the Titans on Thursday, but New York was the first team to have him in, and they refused to let him go, and now he's a Giant head coach. They're looking for that Tom Coughlin success that they once had. They're talking about bringing him in, and I thought this was I didn't think the Giants. I mean, I heard rumors that the Giants were serious about him, but the leadership was saying, "Man, we're not gonna let you go, man. We want you here," and they got the man, and just all the success he brought from Baltimore. In terms of what he did there to stabilize, I mean, he definitely has a mentality of winning, and that should help with the Giants personnel with all this young talent. Now, the Giants are currently estimated to have just over 20 million in cap space, which will grow another 20 to 30 with cuts, and over 100 million in 2027. That kind of flexibility allowing him to supplement the roster sufficiently with free agents. So Harbaugh ranks 12th in NFL history with 193 wins, guided the Ravens to a Super Bowl in 2012, and was named Coach of the Year in 2019. For 18 years, he was the second longest active coach in the league behind Mike Tomlin, who was the 19th season with Pittsburgh before he stepped down this past Monday, which was really interesting. Mike was not fired. He stepped down. Now, we don't know what his plans are going forward. I think he'll pull a Peyton, which he'll sit down for a little bit, talk about it on television, or take a little break, do some fishing, air out his mind, and then he'll probably hit that coaching cycle next year. And he'll be the hottest thing on that market. So the Giants are taking some steps. Just wanted to give a shout out to the Giants on that because, hey, man, that ain't bad doing that. All right, fam, y'all hit that like button as we keep this thing moving and grooving, man. I'm going to go into this is the reaction stream right here from CBS. Ryan Wilson and Rand Carthen. I think he was a running back in the day. But this is their attempt to fix the New Orleans Saints this offseason. Let's see what CBS thinks the Saints need. Here we go.
Something to build on, Mr. Rand here. Welcome back with the first pick. This edition of The Perfect Fix. We're going to fix the New Orleans Saints. I'm Ryan Wilson. That's former Titans GM Rand Carthon. Before we get going here, if you're watching us on YouTube, Saints fans, let us know in the comment where you stand on rookie Tyler Shuck. I thought he was pretty good. And also Kellen Moore, first-year head coach who started slow and then turned things around here. So Rand, the Saints were 2-10 after Week 13 loss to the Dolphins. And while rookie Tyler Shuck, I thought played pretty well and even really, really good. Had this team ended up with the number one overall pick, I think Fernando Mendoza would have certainly been in the conversation. So all they did was win 4 of their last 5. And let's start here. Tyler Shuck for you is the starter in 2026. Yes or no?
Yes.
Next question. You like Drew Rosenhaus talking, doing the TO thing. Next question. All right. Well, good for that problem solved because they're not going to be in a position, to draft one of these quarterbacks because of how well they played down the stretch. So let's get to this. We got the quarterback situation solved. Let's get to your lean on your front office experience. I'm going to tell you some of the guys that are going to be up for free agency on the Saints squad, and I want you to tell me if we're going to keep them or perhaps go in another direction. As always, the Saints are near the bottom of the list in terms of available salary cap space, and they always do the salary cap calculus to sort of make it work. But as we sit here, they're roughly $28.8 million over the cap, which ranks 29th, and you can always correct my math on that. But you see here.
Yeah, and let me pause it for a second. Yeah, and we already know what time it is with that. The New Orleans Saints is a team that always does that. They always are. It was a time we was 100 million, 80 million, being 20 million or whatever it is right now. It fluctuates between 17 and 20. Some people have it a little bit more, but regardless of what happened, there'll be several players that'll be salaries will be restructured. Guys like Carl Granderson, Chase Young, Elvin Kamara. They'll extend ultimately Chris Olave his $15 million hit. They'll extend that and give him his contract and drop that first year down from whatever they renegotiate his contract or give him an extension on. It'll drop down to less than $2 million a year. You know how Mickey Loomis do. And my estimation is that with that being said, they could free up north of $25 million after restructuring. Probably more depending on who else they restructure. Now, could be a couple of releases as well because, you either restructure Divine Gotcha or you cut him because he got undermined and outplayed by players. He was forced to the bench. His play suffered. He wasn't doing the same. So him and Isaac Yiadom could be cut candidates, most certainly restructure candidates. So we'll see how it all falls moving forward. But this is a list of our notable free agents. As I go down the list, Taysom Hill, I think, is going to retire. He already dealing with a shoulder issue. He's up in age. I think Taysom's done. DeMario and Cam already have stated that they want to come back, and the Saints are agreeable to it. We're just talking about money now. And I don't think it'll be a break-the-bank type of deal for DeMario or Cam. It won't be vet minimum deals, but it most certainly will not be a deal where the Saints, it'll be some cheap stuff going on. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't see cheapness going on there. It'll be a fair deal for DeMario and Cam, as well as the Saints, because they have no leverage. You're not saying I'm going to go here or there. They want to remain with the Saints, finish with the Saints. So I think they'll get that done. Alontae Taylor is the one that I believe out of the top free agents that I think we're more in danger of losing. The Saints will allow Alontae to test the free agent market and let it set his value. In doing that, there might be one, maybe two teams in particular that want Alontae Taylor, that like what he does and perhaps want to bring him somewhere else. Could he get a deal like what you've seen the Giants do to Paulson Adebo? You know, when they signed him out of it and he ended up going, this type of thing could happen this year. I think he's the one that we're more in danger of losing, right? Dylan Reduns, I think he's done. He was supposed to be a swing player for the Saints. He didn't really do anything stellar to me where we need to say he done really well when he needs to come back, like Luke Fortner did. The Saints sent Bink Saunders to the Jacksonville Jaguars for Luke Fortner. The Jaguars later on end up cutting Bink Saunders. He ended up with the Jets. Y'all remember that? And Luke Fortner, to me, deserved the right to come back. The Saints should sign him. I don't think it's going to be extremely expensive to re-sign Luke Fortner as a veteran backups center to our injury-plagued center, Eric McCoy, who cannot be relied on. 20-something games, 24 games in the last 4 years that he's missed. That's too much. He's trending on the wrong side of the availability chart. So you have to sign Luke Fortner and give him maybe a 2 or 3 year deal to be the backup, because based on previous history, McCoy at some point is going to miss games, and not 1 or 2 or 3 games. When McCoy goes down, it's usually for the half of the damn season. So when he gets hurt like that, I can understand missing 2 or 3 games here or there, but missing half the year and a quarter of the year, nah, man, no. Missing half the season twice, and you're getting older, it's not a good recipe. And of course, Jonathan Bullitt. I often talk about Jonathan Bullitt, Jonah Williams, maybe Chris Rumph II. Maybe you're looking at Fadil Diggs that could surpass him, because it was close when we got out of preseason going into regular season. It was very close between Chris Rumph II and Fadil Diggs. I think they went with Chris Rumph because his familiarity with playing in that Staley system from his time with the Chargers. So he kind of got beat out there. But Fadil Diggs is close. So it depends on where the Saints want to go. So these are people that you are looking at and possibly thinking about bringing back to the team.
Taysom Hill, Demario Douglas, Cam Jordan, Alontae Taylor, whose name was mentioned a lot during the trade deadline conversations, Dylan Radunz, Luke Fortner, and then Jonathan Bullard. That's a lot of names and a lot of production, especially actually everyone on that list. What are we doing there? Anyone we're focused on bringing back? And then also you have to figure out the Alvin Kamara situation. I think he has one more year left in his deal.
Yeah, well, you also left off Cam Jordan, who has a void year in his contract. Personally, I think for a lot of those guys, you try to figure out. Alontae Taylor is a solid young corner. I think you try to look and see if you can get something done there if the market isn't too high. But a lot of those other guys, they're veterans. These guys are older. I think it's time to move on and get some fresh new blood in there because you're going to end up in the same cycle every year looking to find their replacement. And so for a lot of those guys, I think it's time to move on. You mentioned their cap space. If my numbers were correct, they're $34 million.
Okay, so no, because this is the thing. You move on from the older players if the older players aren't producing. That's the thing, and that's the only time when you move on. Like you don't. The strategy is like you don't have to be a person that only do one thing at a time. You know what I mean? You can pivot and bring Demario Davis and Cam Jordan back, because number one, Demario led the team in tackles. He had 140-something tackles. He never done that before. That was the most tackles that he ever had in his entire career. 10 years ago, when he was playing, he didn't have 140-something tackles. So that's number one. Number two, Cam hadn't had this many sacks in over 5 years, and he do it in year number whatever it is for Cam. Number 16 or so. I don't know how long. It's been a long time. But the reality is you don't sit your veterans down unless they're ready to be set down. If Demario Davis is still a leader, he's still capable of getting 140 sacks a season, and Cam is getting 10 and a half sacks a year, and they want to play one more year and they're productive, why not let them play? Now, while you're doing that, you don't say, well, we're going to hold the draft picks and not draft at their positions. What it does is it affords you security there that you can still draft a guy for the position and have Cam to mentor him and then move forward that way. So you can still do both. You can still keep the veterans if they're productive for one more year. It's not like they're signing a 10-year deal or a 4 or 5 year deal. You can still, as long as they're productive, you can still have them there. Because one guy, Cam, led the team in sacks with 10 and a half, and Demario led the team in tackles with 140 plus. So yes, you can still bring them back for an additional year on a very cheap contract. Not cheap contract, but a respectable contract above the league minimum. That's respectable to both player and team. So you can still do both. You see what I'm saying? That's number one. Go ahead.
Dollars over the cap. Now, if this is so, I'll just say it this way with the New Orleans Saints. In terms of teams coming to the offseason being over the cap, like I never worry about the Saints in their situation. Correct. I think Kai Harley, who handles their cap, he's their assistant GM. He's a wizard. He's figured it out over the course of years. I feel like we talk about the Saints being over the cap entering every offseason, and somehow they find a way to get not only under the cap, but in a position to where they can sign some other guys. You mentioned Alvin Kamara.
Hold on now, big guy. That's right. That's me. Hold on now. That's because of me. I told those guys that. I taught them how to do that. Hold on now. You're going to give me my goddamn credit.
As a guy to figure out his contract, he's due $18.7 million next year. I think that's a deal that could be restructured. You may want to revisit with Chase Young. I think he finished the year with 10 sacks on the season, but he's carrying a cap number of $20.5 million. And so that may be one that you could restructure. You know, again, they've always done a good job in terms of the draft, of drafting a year ahead of a need. So in some of these positions, they are solidified. But in the one position for me, though, and I know we'll get into it when we talk about the draft stuff, one of their main needs, and as I was researching, I had it down, but it was a little bit further. But as I did the research, it's a bigger need than I initially thought was the running back position. That's right. So Alvin Kamara led the team in rushing with 471 yards, and he only played 11 games. And so as a team, they only had 9 rushing touchdowns on the season. And Ryan, guess who led them in rushing touchdowns on the year?
Shuck.
Kendre Miller?
No, Tyler Shuck led the team in rushing touchdowns. He had 3 rushing touchdowns on the season, and they only had 5 out of the running back room as a whole. In the running back room, they had 4 different players who had 45 plus carries on the season. So to me, that is one position of need that they really, really, really need to find, especially to help Tyler Shuck as he transitions into his second year as the starting quarterback.
So that's great points by the commentator right there. The interesting part is, and he's right. He said it in the correct way. He mentioned the man said that it was a bigger need than I originally thought it was, because you've seen Alvin Kamara, you see Kendre Miller, you've seen Devin Neal. They ultimately will sign Audric Estime back. You see what I'm saying? They'll probably bring another back or two undrafted wise for the practice squad, this sort of thing. But, you know, we talked about this. Number one, Alvin Kamara has 1 year left on his contract. He's been hurt back-to-back seasons. Right? He hadn't been the same. Number 2, Kendre Miller is in the final year of his rookie contract, has not shown anybody that he can remain healthy to contribute to the Saints' future. And number 3, Devin Neal, who eventually did get in there to play. He's a young player in his second year, and he also dealt with injury. And number 4, you have Audric Estime and other running backs behind him that stepped in. Audric Estime was a bright spot in losing all of our running backs. Our top 3 running backs to injury. Audric Estime showed that he was a guy that could be relied upon in running and catching the ball. So he was a gem the Saints were able to kind of find there. So having him, we picked him up from the Sean Payton squad inside of things. So Coach Payton still helping the Saints out with Audric Estime and Devon Valley and people like that. So Carthen's right. He's absolutely right about the running back position, because I was looking somewhere else until I did the numbers and did the research. His stats are valid. 100% agree with the brother, 1,000%. So when you get an opportunity for the line up to get a Price or a running back of that ilk, listen, man, it's just one. I mean, not Price, Jadarian Price. I'm thinking Jeremiah Love, because if you get Love and with the quarterback, the Oregon quarterback, electing not to remain, not to come out in the draft. I think his NIL was like $6 million. These guys are multi-million-dollar players in college and staying 6 and 7 years. They become better players because the money there, that'll keep them from running to the NFL. That whole NIL thing done changed the game. I mean, it done changed the game so much so because people would be on the run to get out of college to go make money. They're making money. Some of them making money in college so they can stay longer and refine their game. So in the end, the game done changed the money. You got college free agency, which is a transfer portal. It's off the chain. And then, of course, you have the fact that now players are staying longer in college because of the money and the fact that they're also developing their skill. Like they're becoming better running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, and they're coming out more polished talent as opposed to bolting for the league because they want the money. The game done changed. But Jeremiah Love, if he's available. Now, because Damian, the quarterback from Oregon, is deciding to go back to Oregon, Dylan Raiola, it got egg on his face because he thought he was going to take over the Oregon position with him. Now he transferred up there, and then now he's stuck it. He's stuck as a back. Anyway, that's a sidebar. But yeah, that might make it difficult for you to land Jeremiah Love, right? What are the Jets going to do? Their top notch is a quarterback. Obviously, they're going to go at the quarterback position, the best one they can find in free agency. You know, perhaps they look at trying to acquire Hendon Hooker. Maybe they look at Malik Willis, something like that. Maybe they get, whoever the top quarterback is in this realm of free agency. Let me look that up right quick to see who the top quarterback is. Now I'm kind of questioning to see who that is, who the top quarterback is. Daniel Jones, Aaron Rodgers, who we anticipate might retire. Ain't much shaking in this list, man, to be honest with you. Kenny Pickett. Oh, my God, these kind of quarterbacks here. Malik Willis is there. My goodness. It ain't a fantastic hiring of free agency for quarterbacks, to be honest with you. I can see Daniel Jones got hurt last year. I don't think he'd be available for free agency just yet. And Marcus Mariota, Tyrod Taylor, Kenny Pickett, Garoppolo, Trey Lance, Carson Wentz, Malik Willis, Jeff Driscoll, come on. Gardner Minshew, Hendon Hooker is also going to be available. He's restricted. He's a restricted free ERFA player. So he's not going to. But like I said, I think some of these guys more than likely, and for the Jets, it could be a Hendon Hooker because, that's where Coach Glenn came from, the Detroit Lions, and he's familiar with Hendon Hooker. Why not make that, or perhaps Malik Willis? Malik Willis put on a performance for Green Bay. His numbers actually looked respectable this year. But in terms of, in terms of these people having like really top-notch quarterback, this is a pathetic cycle. Unless somebody gets released and hits that market during that time frame, we'll see what the free agency looks like. But yeah, this class of quarterbacks in free agency this time around is not looking too good. But we'll see what the Jets could do, man. Maybe they get one in the second round or whatever it is, because they're to me, I don't see any quarterbacks worthy of a first round pick. They're gonna reach on them. Maybe Ty Simpson from Alabama, he might step out and join the ranks, but he's also a guy that's dealing with injury. Ty Simpson got hurt in the CFP. A guy popped him in his lower back, and he had got knocked out of that game against who was that, Indiana, that beat their brakes off? I forgot who it was, man. Who beat their damn brakes off. But yeah, he got hurt in that game, so I don't know what it is. I don't think Nussmeier's a first round quarterback. I don't think he's a second round quarterback. And it's crazy because Cade Klubnik was supposed to be one of these guys to step up here and do something. He had an awful year for Clemson. So, Drew Allar is another quarterback. Drew Allar and Cade Klubnik were two guys that were listed to be two of the top quarterbacks. Those guys' stocks have dropped ferociously. So maybe things will change when the scout combine come around, and that's when you start seeing things kind of elevate and all this sort of stuff. But Carson Beck's going to be in there. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go in terms of quarterback position for these teams. So if you're a team that need a QB this round, you're in trouble there. So I don't know what Aaron Glenn gonna do, but man, listen, it's not looking pretty for them. Let's go back to these guys and finish up here.
All right, well, let's get into it. The Saints have 8 draft picks in 2026, including picks 8, 42, and 73 on days 1 and 2. So they're in good shape there. As I mentioned, they're currently picked number 8 overall. So let's play the old game here. Tell me who gives them the most bang for their buck immediately for 2026 out of these potential draft prospects who could be in that range around number 8 overall when the Saints find themselves on the clock. Let's go right to it. Running back Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame. Wide receiver Carnell Tate out of Ohio State. They do need some help there. If they want to bolster the edge rush position, Reuben Bain Jr. is going to be a popular name. They bolster the secondary if they lose some guys like Galante Taylor, Caleb Downs. And then finally, if you want to continue to build the offensive line, and this may be an interior offensive line situation, even though I love this guy right tackle, CeCe Malnoa could start inside, and then you can figure out the rest. So Jeremiah Love, Carnell Tate, Reuben Bain Jr., Caleb Downs, Francis Malnoa. Who does Mickey Loomis and Kellen Moore want?
I don't know who they want, but if it was Rand Carthon and Ryan Wilson, we'd be talking a lot about Jeremiah Love here at the 8th overall pick. And I know that's an unpopular opinion in terms of the nature of the running back position.
I don't think so, brother, because this guy is a fantastic running back. They wasn't talking like this last year when they pushed Genty. When Genty came out, nobody was questioning his ability. And where did Genty go? Hold on here. Let me look this up for a second, fam. I know he was top 5, but let me see where was Ashton Genty drafted at? Let me see. I know he was a six. Yeah, he was taken 6th overall. The Raiders selected him 6th overall last year, right? 6th overall. They drafted that man. He was drafted 6th overall. And how did he perform last year? His statistics. So he was a 6th overall. Hold on, let me put him up on the screen, fam, because I just want to get it. And listen, a lot of people are not going to get it, but to me, I ain't going to say they're the same player, but man, listen, man, listen, bro, I'm going to say, I love the guys. I love his game, man. I love his game. And the reality is, if you're the New Orleans Saints and you take Jeremiah Love and you make him your running back, remember, you're not going to be picking number 8 next year. So if you mess around and land a stellar superstar level running back to help out, there's no greater gift in the world, because the wide receiver position. The wide receiver position, to me, we have a lot. Now, we could use a veteran in the room, don't get me wrong, to help out there. But in the end, if you got Alvin Kamara and Kendre Miller, both of them together can't get it done. They both ended both years hurt. Kendre Miller was hurt this year. Elvin was hurt this year. He was hurt last year. And both of them got 1 year left on the contract. So there was injury concerns with both Elvin and Kendre Miller. So that experiment is over with. Alvin Kamara is on his way going out, so is Kendre Miller. Devin Neal is the future, but he was hurt last year. But with that being said, Jeremiah Love gives you the impact at the running back position that, Ashton Genty gave to the Las Vegas Raiders. Let me show you his numbers. Like this guy, when he got picked 6th overall, there was no questions about this, that, and the third. And we know that the Raiders needed help offensively. But if you're the Saints, one of the grander gifts you can give, because they got the security blanket tight end and Jawan Johnson, the greatest gift you can give is then giving them a running game. Now, remember, he's right about the quarterback, all the rushing touchdowns that Tyler Shough is doing, but Tyler Shough will be looked upon as being a run threat. He's not going to stop running, but he's a smart runner. He knows how to slide. You see, plus the fact when they hit him in the game and they got that extra yardage, that'll be cognizant in defender's head to pull up so he don't get a hit. That'll hurt him. You see what I'm saying? And get tacked on yards because they know he can play that game. But in the end, you're not, as the New Orleans Saints, you have to give Tyler Shough a star. If this guy is here, if Jeremiah Love is there, you gotta, you know, have him to trade in his gold Notre Dame helmet for a gold Saints helmet. No doubt about it. Because he provides future running back potential. It works in so many levels because, number one, there is not a running back in the draft quite like him. He's far up high, and they got some good running backs, don't get me wrong, but he's way up there. And then it's a major drop in runners behind him, a major runner. For some of my scout people, you might want to admit, it's several different linebackers that I like. Running backs, that I like. One of my favorite running backs that I like is Keytron Allen from Penn State. He's a guy that's pretty good. I like him a lot. Jamari Taylor from Virginia. But one of my I like those guys, but Jeremiah Love is way up here. He way up here, and all them other guys way down here. And the closest to him is his teammate, Jadarian Price. I'm not sure if Price is available this year, but Jadarian Price, to me, is the second best running back in the draft. And he was the teammate of Jeremiah Love. And he was still able to get 11 rushing touchdowns and average over 6 yards a carry. But when you look, what I'm saying is that you're not, as the Saints, you're not going to be in a position in 2027 where you're going to have the opportunity to be inside the top 10, right? So when you're inside the top 10, you get a all-star level 8 to 10 year home run hitting threat like Jeremiah Love, who can catch the ball out the backfield, run in between the tackles, run outside of the tackles, has power and speed to his game, is durable. And you could put the running back position on his shoulders, not exclusively by itself, because the Saints operate in a pattern where they'll have runners, a group of running backs operating together with Jeremiah Love and AK-41. Plus, Elvin can act as a mentor for Jeremiah Love while he's here. So show Tyler Shuck some love, as he do. Show Tyler Shuck some love by getting Jeremiah Love if he's available. The only thing is, when it comes down to it, is with that quarterback more out of the draft now, what do those other teams do? What do these other teams do with more out of it? You see what I'm saying? Does that change the dynamic? Does Jeremiah Love get taken by one of those teams? Does he get picked up by the Jets with Breece Hall? I think Breece Hall hitting free agency. Hold on a second. Hold on, fam. Let me look up something right quick. Let me see if Breece Hall is in free agency. Yes, he is. Oh yeah, so there you go right there. The Jets, do they take him second overall? I think the Jets are primed to probably trade out of that spot because their biggest need is the quarterback position. They might be opt to trade out of that spot, right? Maybe they can use that spot as a trade chip to see if they can land them a starting level quarterback. I don't know what they're going to do. They're the supreme wild card there because the Raiders are going to take Mendoza. Perhaps the Jets take Arvell Reese. I'm not sure. The Cardinals, they're going to take Bain or maybe one of them. Maybe they get Carnell Tate to put opposite. I don't know. Maybe Bain, and he smelled defensively. The Titans, to me, will end up going with a wide receiver. They need wide receiver help. It'll be either Jordan Tyson or Carnell Tate. The Browns are more than likely going to go wide receiver, if not offensive line. The Giants, now that they got Harbaugh, I think they go offensive line because they got to protect Jackson Dart. You know, they got some defensive pieces. I think they go O-line. The Commanders, not sure what the Commanders going to do. Not sure. Commanders, their running back position, they could be players there. So Jeremiah Love can go anywhere, possibly. You know, the Titans still have Pollard, but he can go anywhere between 4 and 7, to be honest with you. He can go anywhere between 4 and 7. So you're not exactly apt to line him up. You see what I'm saying? We'll see, man. It's hard to foretell because, you see how things working. Free agency lands up before the draft, so we'll see what goes on there. But if you get an opportunity to get Jeremiah Love at 8, like I'm showing you Ashton Genty on screen right now. And Genty, and they do a lot of comparison. Matter of fact, Rand Carthen, he talks about it, about Ashton Genty and what he did. And Ashton Genty, 5'8", 208, almost 1,000 yards. He's a finalist for the Rookie of the Year, 5 rush touchdowns, averaging almost under 4 yards a rush, but had 266 carries. That's 7th in the NFL. Now, if you go by comparison to Jeremiah Love, his college and pros a little different, but his body is more durable when you have a 5'8" running back. That's 200 versus a 6 foot running back. They say 214. He's around 220, between 220 and 225. Good speed, good power, has multiple years of doing this. Not a one-hit wonder. He's a guy that did rush for 1,000 yards twice. He went up from what he did the previous year. His numbers improved. He had 17 rushing touchdowns in 24, and in 25 went to 18 of them. So he's surefire on what he does. He, like I said, the guy is a talent. And if you the Saints, Jeremiah Love would be a good gift to give to Tyler Shuck. And what that would do is that'll give the Saints a home run hitting running back that's durable, that will work really well in the group that we already have. And you got Elvin, you got Kendre Miller, you got Devin Neal mixing there with Jeremiah Love, and then you got Tyler Shuck thrown into that because he'll be a dual threat guy that when he needs to pick up yards, whatever he gets adds to the running of the team, and that always catapults your team from a rushing stat into the top 10 echelon and makes it difficult for defenses because they're going to have to keep a guy on Tyler, which will make it easy for him to start throwing balls downfield. So the running attack has to help. If he had more of that running back help in some of these games, and I know a lot of that is predicated based on what the Saints do on the offensive line, which is if I'm the Saints and I get money free, I spend money in free agency trying to line up some talent on that offensive line internally. I'm done evaluating with Cesar Ruiz. He's underperforming. We need to. There was no interest in getting him traded in terms of who wants him, but you need to have a guy there to compete with him and open up that spot. That's what I know. That right guard position needs to be opened up in competition for Cesar Ruiz. Not, hey, this is your job. No. The right guard position is open for business. That's what it needs to be, and you need to have somebody competing with him for him to be better than what he is, as opposed to giving him that job. Fortify the backup center position with Lou Fortner and see about either drafting or signing a left guard in free agency. And we have to be about the business, either in the draft or both draft and free agency, of filling in the depth position on the offensive line. But Jeremiah Love, if he's there and you're the New Orleans Saints, man, I'm taking that guy. I'm taking him every time. Here we go.
And if you use Pete's always say you can grab from here and put a running back here. This is Pete Prisco's thing where you could just place a running back anywhere. But I think of all the draft positions, it's at running back is Jeremiah Love, and then the next guy's significantly lower. And so I think that's where the biggest difference comes in. And I think the Saints would benefit from having an explosive home run hitting running back because most of the other teams in their division have that already. That's and true. So a lot of these offenses you're going to be playing against in the NFC South right now, you need to have a form of playing keep away and have a guy that you can turn around and hand it to. And the hitting part and all the success that Sean Payton and Drew Brees and all those guys had, they always had strong quality running games, and they were able to have a 4-minute offense and have the guy that can run with power, the guy that can hit the home run. And I think that's one of the main things the Saints are missing right now.
This is true.
Right. I don't think you can bank on find a hidden gem or a diamond in the rough, if you will, in Alvin Kamara in round 3 every single draft. The other thing, to your larger point about Jeremiah Love, I don't think anyone in Detroit or Atlanta would argue that Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs are top 10 picks and the impact they have on defenses just by virtue of them lining up there. We'll see with Ashton Genty as they start to fix things in Vegas. But knowing that impact, and also this, Jeremiah Love can also catch the ball out of the backfield, and that gives you another weapon for Tyler Shuck. So not bad. Again, I'm not one to advocate for running backs like you are, because you are the godfather of running backs. But this makes too much sense not for it to happen.
Ryan,
at edge rush. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I got a hot take. And again, this is just my opinion. And because we're saying the 8th overall pick, is that too high for Jeremiah Love?
No.
I actually like Jeremiah Love over Ashton Genty.
Exactly.
If I'm comparing them apples, well, correct. But I think I'm saying it's a hot take just based on them coming out, not the way Ashton Genty had to perform. And the thing with the Raiders, that was whatever they had going on out there. I'm just saying, as draft prospects, if you could do it all over again, if you took 2025 Jeremiah Love in 2024 draft prospect, Ashton Genty, I'm taking Jeremiah Love.
Okay, no, I'm not going to push back too hard on that.
Yeah,
I think the thing I would warn the Saints, don't hire Chip Kelly and make Jeremiah Love change the way he lines up in the backfield. That'd be my only advice. All right, hey, Saints fans, let us know in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. Which of the free agents currently on your roster do you want to keep in New Orleans? And how do you feel about the idea of Jeremiah Love with that 8th overall pick? Is there another direction you want to go? Because I'm curious what you guys think on that. All right.
Well, I mean, my take on that is simple. I think it's a great idea because, number one, you're not going to be picking 8 in 2027. So you can get a good, talented running back to go along with what you got going on. Number two, Alvin Kamara and Kendre Miller are free agents, and both are injury. I ain't going to say they're injury prone, but Alvin hasn't been healthy in the last 2 years, right? He's been hurt. He finished the season. He was trying to get back, but he was, he couldn't make it back for the final game it came down to the last game, and he was trying to get back and he couldn't make it. He couldn't clear. So Alvin Kamara been hurt the last 2 years. Plus he got 1 year left on his deal. Kendre Miller has not lived up to what we thought he was going to be out of TCU. He's been hurt every year of his career, cannot be counted on. Number 3, Devin Neal is a young running back who has potential, but he was hurt last year. And besides, none of these people that I just named have the potential that Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame has. And if you don't know who he is, go look up his highlights and see what we're talking about. It is not too high. Matter of fact, it is perfect. The 8th spot is perfect for Jeremiah Love to fall to. Hell, Genty went, the 4th overall to the Raiders? The 8th spot for him, he's a top 5 player in this draft. He's the best at his position. And out of all the players in the draft, he's a top 10 talent in the draft. The best of his field and an impact maker. If you can get him with the 8th overall pick, if he falls to you, man, listen here. Man, please. You go and get that guy. Now, if he's not there, you got to pivot based on your big board because the Saints are going to line up this big board. And whoever they see value there, it'll be depending on where whoever got drafted ahead, who's number 1 on a billboard, regardless of need. And 2, if nobody's offered them a trade to get out of that 8th spot. You dig? Whatever the case is. But that is what we're talking about here, man, as we move.
Hey, Rand, before we take a break here, we got to do our homage to Jim Mora. Playoffs for the New Orleans Saints in 2026. And look, we've said forever that this division, the NFC South, is usually pretty wide open. I don't know if that's changed necessarily. You have the Falcons. You have the Carolina Panthers who came on strong. The Buccaneers were slipping and sliding a little bit towards the end of the season. I love the way the Saints finished the season. It looks like they have their quarterback. It looks like Kellen Moore's their guy. They may only be a few players away from being competitive, a 9-10 win team and being able to compete in the division. What do you think about that?
No, I think they're a year or two away from competing, and more so just in that division. I just think that, like you said, the division is wide open. You had 3 8-win teams that all finished 1, 2, and 3. It was close all the way down to week 18. But for me, I think the Saints are still the 4th team in that division right now. I think the Atlanta Falcons, they figure out their quarterback situation. They might be the most talented team in the division. Love where Carolina is trending, and with the Bucs this year, you just have to figure out what they have going on. The offensive coordinator, can they get that right? And if they're going to be able to bring some of those veterans back for one more run at it, because to me, I think we could see this year potentially. I think we could see the Saints jump the Bucs, in my opinion, because I think the Bucs are on their way, the opposite direction, and the Saints are trending up.
Okay, so wouldn't that make us the 3rd team? If you're saying we're the 4th team, but if we jump the Bucs, wouldn't that make us the 3rd team as opposed to the 4th team? Look, a little mix up on that back end commentary, but the reality, the Saints are not 1 win, 2 years away from anything. The NFC South is still wide open. The Saints have wins against the Dolphins. The Saints have wins against the Falcons at the back of the season. There were games where the Saints went out and did not close the game, right? We've seen that the entire season, where games where the Saints should have won the game, but they had a play here or there. There was a suspect called by the referees here or there. We couldn't get through. So, no, we're not 2 years away from anything. We're not playing in the loaded division where they got a team sitting on top that's just running stuff. No. This is a division that's perfect for a team like the Saints that's building up because and I'm not talking from the heart and the mind of a black and gold man. I'm being real. I'm not discounting the Buccaneers or the Panthers or the Falcons. The Falcons did a good job by getting rid of Raheem Morris. They wanted to land John Harbaugh, but that didn't happen. I don't know what Mike Tomlin is doing, but I think Mike Tomlin would be a good fit if he's interested in coaching. I don't know who they're looking at. But whoever it is, it got to be an offensive-minded coach that takes the reins, that has some respectability and some a plan to put it together for him. But you can't put the Falcons ahead of me, and they don't even have a coach yet. I mean, let's use some common sense here. You can't put the Falcons ahead of my Saints, and they don't even have a damn coach yet. What if they hire the wrong coach? You see what I'm saying? You can't put them ahead. You can't assume that the Falcons are going to hire the right person. Who knows what that Count Blankula's going to do, that vampire out there is going to do? You know, who knows? But you cannot put the Falcons over the Saints right now. They don't even have a coach. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers in free fall mode right now. They got to find out who the offensive coordinator going to be. They got a quarterback coming up on a year on his contract with Baker Mayfield. And some ugliness done happened. Mike Evans is done there. They have some prospects, but everybody have prospects. They're not the only person. And plus, I think the Buccaneers are on the end of what they've been doing. Remember, the Buccaneers won the NFC South 4 times. It's time for them to take a nosedive. That's the natural order of how things operate. Sooner or later, they were going to fall out. It just happened this year, right? It just happened this year. So the Carolina Panthers are a team that backed into the playoffs, and then they backed on about them playoffs, right? they played, no disrespect. They played well, man. They just didn't do enough to win the game. It was a close one, a close affair. Rams got the best of them. But the reality is, like I said, the division is open. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to me are on the opposite way, trending down. The Atlanta Falcons are right now stuck. They don't have a head coach. So you can't place them anywhere because you don't know who their coach going to be. And Carolina and the Saints are really the 2 top teams that I'm looking at that could be teams that's lining up to do something because, and let me tell you, I'm saying this, and I know my dog Lo listening to me. He's like, damn, what in the world, Bo? Listen, I hear you. I hear you, Lo. I hear you, Lo. Say, what in the world, Q? I got you, brother. I hear you. And I'm not putting down the Phil Collins. I'm just saying this, my brother, that the reason why the New Orleans Saints are going to trend over the Falcons because it takes time for the new head coach to come in and set everything up where people are rolling and handling their business. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you might get a really good coach that inspires the team and it hits on all cylinders. Like you end up getting a guy like the fantastic Houston or Texans coach, DeMeco Ryans. You end up getting a DeMeco Ryans. I remember when they hired DeMeco walked in the front door of the Texans building, and he was looking up. And y'all remember that? Put one in the chat. You remember they had people all over the place. All the people that worked for the Texans. They were lying up and down the stairs. They all were standing up, clapping as he was walking in. And there were people, these weren't supporters. These were people that worked for the team inside the corporate building of the Texans, all standing up, clapping and welcoming him in because he was a fantastic player. People love him. The media loved him. I remember I had the reporter on from the Houston Chronicle, a couple of years ago talking about this, how they loved that guy. And all he did was come in there in the first 2 or 3 years and get this team into the playoffs and have them playing playoff football after years of stinky and funky, degenerate, low IQ football and disaster year after year. Right? Now, it does happen. That does happen sometimes where you'll get somebody that take the team from nothing to something. We've seen it happen with Jaden Daniels 2 years ago. When Jaden Daniels went into the Washington Waterburgers organization, to their franchise, and started handing out hamburgers and fries and shakes. And then next thing you know, they in the playoffs. But this year he got hurt. They kind of hurt him on this end. But we seen it hurt. But what happened? But more not than it does. You get what I'm saying? It's more minus than plus. but you'll still have to find a coach in a uber competitive environment that are other teams that are worse than you looking for coaches and are better destinations. So like I said, I can't put them there. I think the Falcons are stuff. I really do think coming up in the season, it's a battle between the Saints and the Carolina Panthers. And we swept the Panthers. So you can put us where we properly belong. Bottom line, hit the like button. Put one in the chat on that. Who that? Great Saint Think Tank. All right, so anyway, man, listen, that's all I got for y'all today. I appreciate y'all for chiming in on this one, man. Also, feel free, man. A shout out to FanDuel, man. Get your all bets in, man. The NFL playoffs continue. The college football championship, the CFP, for Monday. NBA basketball, all that, man, is available at FanDuel. You can hit the FanDuel up and get your bet in, man. Get it in. FanDuel, the official sponsor of the Sports Coma with BigQ. So anyway, with that being said, man, listen, shout out to the Patreon champions, the YouTube membership family. Y'all can feel free to check out the links in the description section below if you want to join us on Patreon, patreon.com/the Pro Media Network. Y'all remember that we are doing the news show On Cue with BigQ. We keep it real on news items that is exclusively and only available for our Patreon champions to check that out. And for our YouTube membership family, we also have the TSC Unleashed Patreon stream, where TSC Unleashed, where we be breaking it down, mock drafts, player profile breakdowns. All this stuff is going to be going on for the draft. We'll be hitting you with that behind the scenes. We'll be doing film study on college players and all those people. All that'll be available, and dozens of shows of locked content that's available on TSC Patreon. You can simply join the YouTube channel, or you can go to patreon.com/the Pro Media Network to get all of that. We've been doing that for 5 years, 5 years of locked content. That's literally dozens, hundreds of shows that's available behind the scenes. So if you want to support the movement, y'all do that. Go to patreon.com/the Pro Media Network. And every Tuesday at 5 o'clock, On Cue with BigQ is released. We just did a beautiful 1 hour show about the oil war that's currently going on, the impacts to you and your family. We did a part 1 and part 2 of that. Might do a part 3. This stuff going on as well. All that, man, we're doing. And also we got some great stuff going on there. TSC Unleashed, on our TSC Unleashed channel. We also have some trending topics that we touching upon as well. A lot of stuff going on in 2026, man. We're just keeping this movement moving. So with that being said, I'm out. Y'all hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. By all means, feel free to share the show on your social media feed, and I'll holler at y'all on the next one. Much love, peace, and who dat to you, baby.
Hey, New Orleans! Whether you're catching up on Saints news at Jackson Square, checking Pelicans scores in the Garden District, or staying updated on LSU while grabbing coffee in the French Quarter, there's one place that keeps you connected to everything that matters in our city. From Bourbon Street to the Superdome, from Preservation Hall to the Riverfront, New Orleanians are staying in the know with TheHootitDaily.com. your daily source for Saints, Pelicans, LSU, and all the sports, music, and culture that makes our city special. At work downtown, at a game in the Dome, or just relaxing by the Mississippi, wherever life takes you in the Big Easy, you can stay connected. Because when you're from New Orleans, you don't just live here. You stay in the NO. That's stay in the know. Visit the WooDatDaily.com and never miss what matters most to Who Dat Nation.
Welcome to the Pro Shop, where we create authentic NOLA-inspired clothing for men, women, and children. From Saints jerseys to Pelicans gear, everything's crafted right here in New Orleans. Whether you're shopping the Pro Shop, the Pel Shop, or the Pro Shop Kids, we've got your whole family covered with genuine merchandise that represents our city's spirit. Check for links in the description section below.